Hello and welcome to my podcast, Creative Full Time, where I interview people in the entertainment industry and find out how they're doing the damn thing here in Canada. Today's guest is an award-nominated actress, writer, and poet, and she's an International Monologue Slam champion. She has been in the lead in 2 feature films, The Last Resort and Secrets of a University. She has also been in television series Shelved, SkyMed, and upcoming series Cross. We're going to talk about all of her successes so far in her career, as well as being a mother of 3 and thriving as a warrior of cystic fibrosis. I am so excited to sit down and talk to LA Sweeney. Hello and welcome.
Allison, how art thou today?
I'm good. I'm goodeth.
Goodeth we are.
How are you?
Sameth.
Sameth? Excellent, excellent. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My honor.
Fun to be wanted.
Yes, absolutely. So wanted. Never feel not wanted.
Okay, never again,
and
ever.
For everyone at home.
Hear that, ex-lovers?
You heard it here first. You missed out. So I like to start with when the dream was born, when you wanted to be an actor.
Wow, yeah. I don't remember.
Many don't.
Yeah, no, I think, and this could be, there's this thing of like your memories are not even that much accurate. You kind of build them and make them do something else. So I have no idea if this is true or not, but I have a memory, whether concocted at this point or not, of like being young and like just, a lot of the in the living room dress up and performance and maybe I'm here, maybe I'm there, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, as most kids do. I think all kids want to be actors or are actors, right? So there's a memory I can trace to young years if I sift through all the repression and trauma that buries those things. Right. Of like wanting to be an actor very young. And actually the more prominent memory is probably in high school when I got to audition for this play. Like my high school was putting on this play and I was like, I took drama in high school and I was like, I'd really like to be a part of this. This is like an actual chance to perform and audition, and I got the part. It was great.
Wicked.
I remember walking into like a little drama room and there was like, a panel of seniors that were there sort of casting the play and going in this big spotlight on me and being like, and then just knocking out of the park based on my own memory.
That's right.
But I think I did because I booked it. And that was definitely like one of my early memories of thriving in that, like feeling like I could eat this up, I drink it up.
Yes.
And I got the part, but then I backed out because, I was, I guess 14 or what have you, and just a lot of different conditioning in my mind. Don't want to blame anyone, but just different ways I was brought up. There's religious elements and just all sorts of things that the part was, there was going to be I was going to be in bed. It was a comedy, right? But I was going to be my character was going to be in bed with some other characters. It was this dream sequence and it was quite silly and not like lewd or inappropriate at all. But my 14-year-old self, I remember kind of mentioning it to someone in my family I won't name because I don't want to like pigeonhole anyone as being an asshole. But I just remember this feeling of feeling very like judged. Like I remember the reaction that I got from was like, oh, you're gonna do what? Mm-hmm. The good Lord would frown upon that. Was something of the mix there, and it got to me. And I just felt like, oh, yeah, this would be bad then. Like just somehow in that moment, this moment of judgment gelled this thing of like being an actor together with like having to go against some sort of morality that was not one that I held anyways. And I left it and I didn't do anything else with acting after that. So I had one very brief moment of like, ooh, as a teenager, and then just like, nope, that's not ever, that's not a thing.
For it, and then
that's not a thing we do. And went about my life and got into the corporate world for a long time. And then I had my son, my little baby. And that definitely changed me, as I think a lot of parents can attest to, that like your whole worldview just flips 180, I think. And mine did, and there was a lot of different things that came out of me, but one thing that definitely rose to the surface was I do not want my kids to feel limited in any way. I don't want them to accept any type of messaging or conditioning that would have them, turning their back.
Suppress their dreams,
having them turn their back on that which would light their soul on fire.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so I was like, well.
Great quote.
That which would light their soul on fire is how I parent.
Yes.
Yeah, in that moment, there was an honesty that came up in me. It was like, well, how can you dare begin to try to, role model this to your kids or preach this to your kids or teach them that lesson if you're sitting here, dear darling, with a deep little secret in your belly of something you'd love to do that you haven't zipped a word of since.
Right.
And so I kind of confessed it to my, husband, where I was like, I think I'd like to act. And he was like, well, duh. Do that goddamn every day, all the time to me. I am your one-man audience. And I was like, you knew? As if I could hide it, right?
That's hilarious.
And he signed me up for my first acting class.
Aw,
what a
that's
dear, right?
so sweet.
And he was like, go. And I took some classes at Second City. And it was like, I dabbled in it for a moment. And I was like, this is fun. And then it just, I'm losing track of time, but pandemic. Anyways, the point is that it didn't really kind of happen. I sort of like touched into it, but nothing happened. And then during the pandemic, I was like, oh, right, with like, my child who was like 2 at the time, just kind of peeling my head out of the like Kleenexes and facial masks and like, whatever else we were buried under during that first really rough year of COVID. And I was like, I had a dream.
Right.
I dreamed a dream. And I was like, okay, right, actor, we can do this. And just like literally was there on my computer, like, how does one become an actor? And it was like headshots. My husband's a photographer, so I was like,
perfect.
Yeah, he didn't do headshots at the time. He did almost everything else. And he was like,
just turned to me like, you do now.
Yeah. He's like, it's a whole other thing. I was like, well, darling, you camera, man, shoot.
Right? So my face, your camera.
This is what we do. So, pulled out some headshots. I made these little, like, sort of like little sketches. Like, you need a demo. I was like, I don't know what that is, but like, here's a camera. Here's me doing stuff. Hi. Right. And, put some stuff together, threw it up online. And then I found the Monologue Slam, which has been a great cornerstone of my career so far. And yeah, just entered that and like, just performed well there and saw recognition there. And I was like, okay, maybe you got something, girl.
Yeah, you do.
And found my agent through that. And it just picked up like crazy. I also at that time, it's crazy, right after I found my agent, I got pregnant again. I have twin daughters as well.
No way.
And I've told this story many times because it's so funny to me when I remember calling my agent and being like, I'm pregnant, Daddy. Are you mad? And he was like, I don't think I have a say in this. Yeah. Congratulations.
Right.
And it was great. So again, it was this theme of kind of like starting, stalling. And so then even after I got an agent, it was like, okay, now we're like, maternity for a little while. And then shortly after my daughters were born, like 4 months out the gate, I booked my first project.
Amazing.
And it was a feature film that I was like, a lead in, and I was like, scam? This real? Scam? Because my skepticism, and they just like, no, this is real, and you're good.
That's amazing.
Own it. And I was like, okay. And like, just went through that. It was a good first experience to rip the Band-Aid off, especially that whole imposter syndrome that we always get. It was a great thing to just show up and everyone's there like, talking shop talk. They know what they're doing. Like, how about you, LA? And I was like, yeah, acting good, me do. But I was there just kind of being shy, but and I confided in someone. I was like, this is my first time, and they're like, who cares, just do it. Like, you don't have to tell people that. And I was like, okay.
You don't have to tell anyone that. I feel like I can sometimes feel the responsibility of like, hey, they need to know, like, I'm not.
They need to know.
They need to know where I'm really at up here right now. But it's true. Like, they don't. It doesn't make a difference. You got hired.
Make a difference. You got hired, did the job. So that was a great first experience to really like test me. And my daughters were 4 months at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was pumping on set and
no kidding.
Shuttling back and forth. But again, it was good to start hard.
Yeah.
And then it was like just
everything will be a breeze now.
Been a really awesome couple years since then.
That's amazing.
Just a couple and a half now, I guess. But yeah, it's been really great.
That is so wicked.
Yeah.
So who's your agent? Are you still with the same agent?
I'm still with the same agent from day one.
Excellent.
And yeah, I mean, I hope we get to have that romantic story where we're together all the way to the Oscar wins.
Right.
I see you, boo.
I love it. Did you like to shout out your agent?
Shortlist artists.
Ayo.
Hit them up if you're looking for me,
That's right. Yeah. Here she is.
Mr. Andre Newell.
Ayo. Yeah, that's awesome. That's wicked. So you got an agent from Monologue Slam. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I love Monologue Slam. Are you going this Sunday?
I will try to be there. Yes. Mm. Yeah. I'm
so excited.
I rarely miss unless, the goober gobberers that are attached to me and my dependents somehow prevent that. The goober gobberers. The gobberers of goober.
I love that. That's hilarious. So you did a feature film and then another feature film. Like, was it back-to-back feature films?
I booked another feature in the fall of the following year. So like after that feature, I got a lot of great spots that I booked throughout the year, which was again just a really fortunate way to kind of like enter the industry, just being like validated, like, yeah, girl, this is gonna work out for you. So to not have to overcome that like stretch of the road that so many actors do in the beginning of kind of being like, I don't know if this is ever gonna work. Like I did get pretty early on validation. I actually had an acting coach let me know when I was kind of like sort of saying, I don't know, like how I don't know, like I don't know, I don't think I'm that good, or I don't know how I'm like booking this stuff early on. And, you know, sort of like letting me know, like, you know, acting is just a translation of life and experience. That's all it is. And, you know, your proximity to truth, you know, like how much you felt it and how much you can redeliver that. And like, you're not a spring chicken, although I'm not like, you know, crossed any bridges yet, but it's the reality is I think age, life, and experience has lended itself really well to the early success that I've seen. Is that as much as I was looking at it like, oh, I've come into this brand new, I haven't come into this brand new, because this that I'm coming into is just being a person, and I've been a person for a minute now,
right?
Experiencing things.
Yeah.
So yeah. What was the question?
That's amazing. No, I totally forget, but I love where we were going with it.
Yeah, it's great. It's fine. Yeah. So anyways, whatever we're talking about, that's the important thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. No, I love that. That's so cool. So, and then
feature film.
Oh yeah, feature film was a back-to-back.
It was a year later. It was in the fall of a year later.
Nice.
And that was really exciting. That was a film that aired on Lifetime, so that was great because I was like, woo. Importance, no.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, we have our milestones as actors, right?
Absolutely.
That kind of go, you know, this can go on the resume and help, you know, affirm for future employers of mine that like, she can show up and be reliable and stuff. So I think that's what that was important for. And that was a really great project again, to get to go again for a few weeks on set and try to, you know, see the growth, you know, apply the growth and learning that I had acquired over the year since doing that first feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It was fun. That's so wicked. Did you take regular classes at the moment?
I do. I have been, so another thing that happened fortunately for me early on is like shortly after hooking up with my agent, went to a little mixing function and met Sophie Ann Rooney, who runs the Rockter Studio in Toronto, and like hit it off well with her and was like, yeah, I'm a vibes person, as most people are. And I was like, feels safe, good, like what's saying, I will go. I don't know why I'm doing like a Yoda thing today.
I'm into it.
I don't know why, you know what I mean? I think it's a nervous tick, honestly, that like you try to cast off your authority in a moment. It's now a whole other conversation, but I noticed that, you know, you try to like sometimes be like, oh, you shrink yourself. That's the Yoda thing, is like, I don't know what I'm saying, but I know what I'm saying, you know, and I can, you know what I mean? So let's just cut that now. Let's cut that. I'm going to lay it down proper, like the bitch we know we are.
I love it.
So I met Sophie Ann Rooney. She runs Rockter Studio. Loved her vibe. Felt really drawn. Was like, I'm going to go check out a class there. Came with high recommendations. Went to a class. Was blown out of the water. Literally sat. Was it my first class? I'm trying to remember now because I've been training there for a couple years now.
Amazing.
Sometime early on, whether it was my first class or second there, I remember just sitting in one class just profusely sobbing for like 2 hours. Okay, I was dehydrated at the end of it. And it was just, the point that I make of that is that space and environment for me was just so poignant and good at like just tapping me right where I needed, just the right spot on the egg to kind of help open up what was already there. So it's been a fantastic environment for me personally. It's like, you know, every teacher is different, every student's different. Teaching is not a mark of like, this is the best teacher and this is whatever. It's a relationship. You have to find the space that works for you. That space has worked really well for me. And I think what that space has done for me is it's accelerated what would have taken longer to be released from me.
Nice. And so what needed to be released in your opinion? Just being more open, more vulnerable? Being
vulnerable in the ways that I maybe didn't realize would be harder for me to be vulnerable. I wouldn't describe myself as having a resistance to vulnerability. I've always been a quite vulnerable person, but learning where vulnerability lies in, being vulnerable about your anger, or being vulnerable about your less the sides of you that you would qualify as less desirable.
Okay.
So vulnerability, kind of comes with this thing where sometimes people go, oh, vulnerable, you can cry, you're vulnerable, right? It's like, yeah, that's one facet of vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is really just that, like, this is what's happening within me, and I'm not going to try to mask or hide it. I am just going to let it go through me, come out of me, or whatever, right? And so thinking that I was vulnerable pre that would have looked like, I'm vulnerable because I can show you that I'm hurting and I'm sad. Now, being vulnerable, having gone through, those experiences that I've had with that school, looks like even the ugly, even the less attractive, even the angry, even the petty, even the jealous, even the whatever. Even though I don't rate it as something that I necessarily want to be, if it's there, I'm going to just let it live and let it be and let it tell its story. And I'm just going to be a vessel for that. Amazing. But I had to find my way to that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And ironically, there's less tears with that now. I cry a lot less when portraying stories because I've learned the nuance of vulnerability.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm going to replay that answer in my head as I...
Yes, it's just chew on it. It
yeah, I will. I like that. That's awesome.
I too will be chewing on it and being like, did that make sense?
It did make sense. It made sense to me. That's why I want to replay it. Yeah. That's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Go to class. Class is good.
Yeah, class is good. I
do my best work in class.
I'm
still bridging the gap between treating set like class, ignoring everything else, ignoring all the other stuff that kind of stifles you, and just flying into the abandon the way I've been able to do it in class.
Yeah, that's tricky. That is a tricky thing. I try to do that even at my own house. Yeah. Of like, oh, my boyfriend can see me doing this audition, and so I'm gonna put on the face of like, I'm not trying.
Well, because there's multiple skills as an actor, right? Like there's that first skill of like knowing thyself, knowing, the vessel and where all the pores and everything comes out. That's one thing to learn as an actor, when you're like, how do I first of all identify what's happening in the story, and then how do I locate that within myself, and then where is that supposed to come out of me? That's one skill you can do by yourself. Right. And then there's a whole other thing of like learning that secondary skill of just blocking out the real world around you and finding your way into the imaginary world, or upholding the walls of the imaginary world, even when you've got a camera right here in your face, and whoever is over there making jokes in between the takes, and that's a whole second skill that an actor needs to develop, which is what I'm still honing in my development of that, right? I always say, you want to see LA on fire, come see me in class. Like, I throw down. And I'm still closing that gap of throwing down on set. It might be happening, I don't know. It's been like, how these projects are. You still got to see these projects to know.
That's true.
But I know that I'm aware of it when I'm on set. I'm like, oh, there's awareness of all the stuff around me. Okay, close it out. And I still continue to build that muscle of just untethering from that entire world. I'm not here. You can't see me. I'm not here. I'm in another world, right?
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, you're right. That is a whole secondary skill to have as an actor.
Yeah, that's the professional element.
What do you find is the hardest part about being an actor?
Being an actor. It's what you said when we were talking earlier of like, where's that switch in me that makes me want to do this, and can I just turn it off so I can just go and be pleased and satisfied with doing something way less, that's not as tall of an order. I find like there's something to wanting to feel seen in what you do. And I think acting, like a lot of creative things, but acting in particular for me, is that it's tough to see how much the actor is accomplishing when they're doing the things. And so I think if you are not an actor, it's highly underrated what's happening. It's a lot that's happening. Like vulnerability, you want to talk vulnerability? Like even in the art, there's like, and I've painted and I do poetry and I write and stuff. There is a degree of like, I'm not going to say hiding, but separation when It's like, here's the thing I did, the painting, the picture, the whatever, but I'm not in it. And acting is like, this is me. Like, but it's here, but it's coming through my instrument, that's me. And there's gray lines there between separating. So sometimes when someone's observing you doing it, you're feeling like they're observing you, right? It's not like they're observing your picture, they're observing you. And so for me, there's just an additional level of like just vulnerability that can be hard to separate the lines and see it as, this is my art and this is me. And I don't have to feel judged in myself because someone's judging my art, because my art is me. So I think that gets like overlooked by people who are not actors. And I specifically say people who are not actors. I don't even go as far to say people not in the industry, because I think even within the industry, there's a judgment, not a judgment, but like I don't want to say misunderstanding. I don't know that it's fully understood if you haven't done the thing. And I've heard this from people in the industry who are, whether they're part of the crew or they're whatever place they hold outside of acting, when they've taken an acting class or tried to act, then I'll hear them telling me the stories where they're like, I tried that. I didn't know that's what you guys were doing. So even when you're in the industry, unless you're in that position of being an actor, you really don't know what it is that person's experiencing, what they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're, whatever. It's a very visceral feeling to just be the thing that's doing the thing. Like, if you're the camera operator, the camera is your tool that you're using, right? And you're operating the camera. I'm operating me as an actor. I'm operating me. And that comes with a lot of psychological, kind of just, there's a lot of inner voices you've got to be dealing with and tending to just to get to doing the thing. Yeah. And then after you do all that work, you've somehow got to relax and make it look natural, make it seem like it's spontaneous. And not just seem like, it needs to be spontaneous. There's also then that thing where like a real moment has to be created within all that really rigid work that you build around. And so for me, it's just, the hardest part of being an actor is just being an actor. Right?
Yeah.
What is it for you?
Absolutely. For me,
Miss Allison, who I'm now interviewing.
I know. I feel like my answer changes all the time as to what it is. I mean, the lack of control over the career sucks.
Yes, greatly.
My sister, it's funny, my sister's a nurse, and I've told her, like, sometimes I audition, I send it out into the void, and then you never hear back if you don't, unless you get it, you don't hear back. And she's like, I would hate that. I was like,
as people sit there going, they didn't text me back, they didn't whatever. There's really a need to know, there's really a need for reciprocation is what it is, right? It's like I say, and then you say back that we don't get as actors. That's like, you gotta have so much confidence in what you're doing, or you've just got to change your mindset about like the fact that like it's not about receiving feedback. I am the giver of feedback. How did that feel for me? And even though it is, and it's also, a filmed medium, so I can even watch back my technical work and judge that as well, right?
Do you find it interesting when you film and you're like, oh, I crushed it, and watching it back versus like, oh, I think that one sucked, and watching it back and you're like, actually, no, that wasn't that bad.
Knowing your medium. There's another skill that you have to learn as an actor, is knowing your medium, because like what you feel you're doing, Mike, what you feel you're doing and how that's translating to the medium, again, there's a relationship there that you have to learn as well. Because 100%, especially with self-tapes, like I'll be doing a take, I'm much better at it now. I still do it sometimes because I'm an imperfect human, but I definitely like put myself through a boot camp of being like, LA, you will not stop a tape. Do not stop a tape, because there's so many times that I've watched back a partial tape that I stopped and I'm killing it. And I'm like, ooh, that little moment was beautiful. And then 2 seconds later, I go, no, I don't like it. And I stop and I'm like, what are you doing?
So many times.
So many times. So I kind of put myself in the boot. I said, do not stop a goddamn tape, girl. And I'm much better at it now. But vice versa, there's ones where I go, I gave that my all. I am spent. That's the take. And I watch it back and I'm like, ooh. And the ooh isn't at like anything, beauty related or whatever. That's a whole other milestone to get over.
Whole other.
But the ooh is that I'm like, no, because I know that what that moment, as I was talking about, like discovering what's supposed to be happening in the story and locating it in yourself and then delivering out, there's just a miss there. When I'm watching and go, ooh, I go, that's not translating, right?
Right.
So
and for me too manufactured sometimes, where I'm like, that looked planned.
Yeah. I find the best way to kind of sort of like reconcile that is just if you do continue to hone in your technical skills of understanding your relationship with the medium, with the camera, and understanding that like, when you want to say something and you really want to express it, but you lean too far back here, the audience isn't receiving that. And just knowing those little details of like, okay, so a different choice to pray to the high heavens is to kind of, maybe the heavens are within my belly, or where else can I put them that doesn't lose me that impact? So it takes time to continue to get good at that. And then once you know those parameters, then just like give in to the relax into the spontaneity of trusting and don't stop the goddamn tape.
Yes, I know.
You can't play director when you are being actor.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to separate the technical from the actual doing of the work of like, oh my God, I think I can see myself looking like this, or I didn't hit that right, or, is my hair okay? Like anything. Do you find it difficult to separate those, or is it an exercise? And
No. Definitely. Well, found it difficult earlier on, finding it less difficult now. So I think anything, it's something that you can continue to improve upon. In the earlier days, absolutely. Like when I first put myself on tape, first ever audition I did, oh my God, I could barely get through the whole tape because I was so aware of all the like, just from a very surface level physical insecurities that I have, where I was like, oh, that's gonna look bad because I know that one time my friend took a picture of me at Wonderland. It was from that angle and it was the ugliest thing ever. And so, you know what I mean? And just all this nonsense kind of comes up in you. And so much more difficult in the beginning. Now way better at it. Like after 2.5 years of taping yourself like very regularly, so much better at just that voice is almost dead, right? He's like crying in a corner somewhere. And I'm like, nah, honey.
I love.
But yeah, so the difficulty of kind of like, oh, this is the technical stuff, and I'm in my technical brain. I find can get much easier just honestly with a couple rehearsals. It doesn't even take that much. Sometimes we tippy toe and dance around the work because we think it's going to take me forever to get there. And like if you just focus in and do a few solid rehearsals, like not pretend ones, but just solidly go through a couple rehearsals, your brain and your body is so sophisticatedly intricate, right? Is that it's just like, got it. We hear you. Chin's going to be here. Cool. We know to whatever, right? Got it. Hear you. When we look over there, it's too far and you can't see. So we're going to put our mark right there. It's very fixable, but you just have to know what you're fixing, why you're fixing, and then just commit to the fix.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So you, do you have like a favorite project that you've worked on so far?
Favorite project I've worked on so far?
Yeah.
All projects are like, pick me.
We'll secretly hate you if you don't pick me.
Well, I've already told you that like my classwork is like
that's true. That's
so like
true.
if we're counting, that like I'll look at sets up, but like if we're counting all things, like again, when I'm doing work in class, that's just my like if someone could pay me to go to class, I'd be like, great, this is my career made, because it's just whatever, right?
Right.
So currently some of my favorite projects are there only because the Reckless Abandon is on fire.
Nice.
But like actually hired to and projects that I have done and showed up for and been professional at doing in terms of favorites. You know what? Actually, the upcoming series Cross that you mentioned, plug that I did which was just like it was a faint moment that I participated in that. But what I loved about it was the camaraderie. So this was like so I'd call it a favorite project because the experience I had doing it was really great. There was people who were on their game. There was a certain there was a professional level of dance amongst the crew and the cast that was just like all those little hiccups that you experience on set that sometimes makes being an actor not so fun were very minimal. So that was really fantastic. And got to just do, you know, fun stuff. There was an argument that I was a part of in terms of like, you know, being on the roll. So got to do some of those kind of more fun, like, say it ain't so moments. So yeah, that was fun. That stands out quickly upon ask. But like, you know what? They're also good. I think also, to be completely fair to all my projects, I really am treating this phase of my career as like training grounds. I've given myself that mentality to take the pressure off of judging myself after. You know, when you drive away from set and you go, oh, why did I do it like that, right? I don't want to do that. And again, to trace back to that first project that I did where I had that, like, you know, 3 weeks and all that kind of stuff, I got to go through so many, you know, moments of like the gamut of just being an actor. And I got to do that thing where I'm going home and judging myself. And I got to do that. And I'm really introspective in that I'm really good, this is the life experience thing, at identifying immediately in me like a radar, like, we don't like how that feels. Incoming, we don't like how that feels, and we're going to do something about it.
Right.
So I think pretty early on, I was like, oh, okay. Let's change our mindset on this, and let's like make our mindset not about the result and it being like, you know, I'm gonna go do this project to be amazing, but just making it like it's just training that you're just coming to practice, you're training. That's what it is. I'm so fortunate to be able to get paid for my training right now. So a lot of the projects of the last couple of years have all just been, it's all just, you know, it's all just like gym hours for me, you know what I mean? So they're all my favorite in that respect of, it's just like, which swell was bigger on which day, you know, the pump and the iron. But if you get that reference, I was like, swell, your eyes narrowed. You're like, what swell we talking about, honey?
Swell? What?
Because like, it's not that kind of show. But yeah, they've all kind of been my favorite, and also, you know, also want to do better for all the future ones. And yeah.
Wicked. Are you union?
I am union.
You are union. Okay.
I'm union.
Nice.
Call me.
Go, yeah. I love it. So what was your journey to getting to union?
Tremendously easy.
It is sometimes for people. No shame, no shame.
Yeah. You know what? Again, good fortune here. But that first film that I was talking about, that was non-union. I did that. And then the next gig I booked after that was a union gig.
Wicked.
So, you know, permit. Booked a commercial after that, permit.
Ayo.
And then booked another, it was a principal role on a feature that was union and like permit. So like in 6 months I went union.
That's amazing.
After that non-union film.
Was that your goal, to be a union as fast as possible? Or?
Yeah, you know, I was taking the advice of my agent, who was like,
as one does.
He's like, you know what? He's like, we're not dilly-dallying. We're going union, and then the conveyor belt.
Might as well.
I mean, I especially appreciate the advice because as a mom of 3, I have to, I'm dancing, I'm like say nicely, delicately, but like, no, it's not to say that like you want more bang for your buck, but like in a nice way, it's just like it's tough for me to run around and accept 10 jobs that maybe are paying a certain amount.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like the jobs may be few and far between, but like juggling with my schedule and stuff and what works for me, union just made more sense. I have a lot of actor friends who choose to be non-union, you know, and they they work a lot. They like to work a lot, and they make their money up that way and stuff. And I just my schedule ain't set up like that.
That's fair.
So union was a good choice for me. I'm happy I'm union.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have another job as well as acting?
No, I don't. Well, other than mothering, which is a very serious job.
Your full-time job.
Other than my real full-time job. What's funny, people always say like mothering is a job or parenting is a job, and they're like, it's not a job, it's a privilege. It's like, it's both. Okay, it's both.
Right. Yes. It's an honor, a privilege,
a lot of work. It's an honor, a privilege, and also stats say it's the equivalent amount of work as 2.5 full-time jobs. So, you know, it's both. But yeah, no, that takes up. I actually made the choice like earlier last year to like homeschool my kid as well, which was a choice that I'm so happy with and was made out of evident needs that he was having, and it's phenomenal. We've had a great year.
Nice.
But I do that, you know what I mean? And my kids are young. They're young. Like they're all like they all still pronounce their words funny. That's how young they are, right? Actually, I had my son on tape yesterday trying to say photographer. I was like, Fugadagadur. And I was like, this is a complicated word for you. So they're young, so they require a lot of my time. And I homeschool, so that requires even more of my time.
Yeah.
And then I act, which apparently requires so much of your time, because even when you're not acting, you're supposed to be doing the thing that helps you to do the acting.
Yes.
And I'm a wife, which is also a job. I mean, well, to not, cast myself back decades and call myself a wife, but I'm in a fully committed, full-time, long-term relationship, which is a goddamn job, people. One I'm privileged to hold, but no, I don't have any other jobs.
Good.
That's all of them, other than being fabulous.
That's right.
Also full-time. Creative full-time, fabulous full-time.
That's how you do it. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So everything's riding on this. So
really call
me.
I love it. That's amazing. So union, we went over your agent, wicked.
Are you running out of things to say to me?
No, those are the major things that I wanted to, because
that was the hit list. Now we're just
the last interview I ended the podcast with a fast 5 questions. I did them, and then I was like, I didn't ask you about your agent or if you're union.
Yeah, wait, I missed the bigger things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were just chatting. But I want to make sure I got those. Got those down. Check. And you, in your bio that you sent me, you said that you were honored to portray or present more women of color on the screen. What is your message that you want to bring to that?
It's honestly just taking up goddamn space. It's just giving more variation. I guess the goal or mission there is just to see a better reflection of the sample population that is around me, that I live in my life, on screen. I think everybody, whether you're in the creative field or not, the medium of film and television is such a prevalent one. Like, everybody watches stuff. And it's very accessible to relate to that. Because I mean, again, like when you're talking about the arts, songwriting does that as well. Like, we all have our songs that we sing because they connect to us so viscerally. Yeah. But I think, in close competition with that is watching people, portray humans and tell stories. We relate really easily to that. And when you don't see people who look like you, but you want to relate to their story, I think psychologically it can kind of have an effect of making you wonder if you're supposed to look different. So like when I grew up, watching people, and tell stories or whatever. I'll give you an example. One of my most influential and favorite shows growing up was Gilmore Girls.
Oh yeah?
I was one of those. I loved Gilmore Girls. I found it, one late night, a replay on like YTV or something, or wherever it was airing, I don't remember. And I really liked that character, of the, Rory's mom, Lorelai Gilmore, who's just like, it's funny, I have a funny history with Gilmore Girls, because then upon, second and third watching as I aged, I've had different opinions of it as I've now grown up. Yeah. But my 12-year-old self loved Lorelai Gilmore so much, and I just thought she was cool, and she drove a Jeep, and there was just so much that I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. And then without, like, unbeknownst to me, like, without trying, you kind of start to, it's a normal thing for the mind to identify patterns and then just like identify differences. And you're like, oh, but I don't look like, and I'm not like, and then there can be this like feeling of not belonging that can come out of that. So, part of taking up that space is just for all the people who do look more like me, that can see me tell stories and go, oh man, that story, that experience, that character, I really get that. And then not even have the barrier of having to overcome the second thing of going, oh, but she looks different, right?
Right.
And I think it's more about the amount of one version of person that we're seeing. So it's not even just to say that it's a one-off of like the only way to overcome that barrier is if that person looks just like you. It's more so just if they're in the mix, like if because then it all becomes the same. If some people look like this and some look like this and some look like that, then I have an easier time just kind of like interchangeably being like, yeah, I connect to her and I connect to him, and I'm not worried about, or I'm not thinking about how that excludes me, because I see a mixture of everything, right? So then it doesn't become a one-on-one where like I can only relate to the characters who look like me. It becomes commonplace for all characters to just look like and sound like and walk like and talk like a variation of things. And as we know, in the world there is a certain, classism and hierarchy to, with race involved and stuff like that. And I don't feel that. I've been fortunate in my life growing up here in Toronto that I've grown up in places and spaces where I haven't had to always be. Now, even though it's there, in micro ways, I haven't always had to be hard-hitting, confronted with on a daily basis my difference. And my difference has just been one of the same of the mixture and melting pot that we see here. And I want that to exist on screen.
Yeah.
That should exist on screen. You know what I mean? If that was reflected in all the programming that I watched growing up, then, I might not have straightened my hair all through high school and ruined my fabulous curl.
Yes, right.
Still love a silk press. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that I might not have. You got to really dig into even certain physical insecurities I have of myself. How much is that me actually not liking that thing versus me receiving messaging that just said that thing is not put on put on the screen.
We don't currently desire this.
Therefore,
and
it's
then
not
it changes
beautiful.
all the time.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there's definitely a motivation there to just, my daughters look exactly like me. They're like, I always go, we're little triplets. I cut their hair to be just like mine. Recently, I gave us all the same haircut. And yeah, God damn, do I want them growing up being like, yeah, I have a place anywhere I want to go. And that just makes sense. And it's not even a question I have to ask myself.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wicked. And I also wanted to touch on, you said how did you phrase it in your bio? Because
Probably
I love,
ostentatiously.
No, I love how you phrased it. It was thriving as a warrior with cystic fibrosis, of cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, living with, I think it was thriving warrior living with cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, I love that. I love how that's worded.
I'm glad you love it. It's, I still sometimes, I'm working my way to feel, I was saying this to you earlier, that I've put that in my bio, I've taken it out of my bio. I've put that in my bio, I've taken it out of my bio. It's in my bio right now. It's something that I'm still on my journey of still just treating as casual and normal and not a thing. There's still a certain amount of a thing that it is to me. And, first of all, for those who don't know, or if you don't know or whatever, cystic fibrosis is a predominantly, it's an illness that predominantly affects your respiratory system, but also your digestive system. And it's like most illnesses, there's a spectrum to it. Some people experience the symptoms to a very debilitating level, and other people are able to live, with quite mild symptoms. For a long time, it was an illness that was known as, to be very blunt, like a child killer. Kids didn't live with it. And actually the year that I was born was a year that they had a massive breakthrough in research and sort of discovering exactly where the I was going to say defective, but alternate gene lived, and the treatments have just, accelerated, improved tenfold in my lifetime. I am amazing. Of the generation that when I was born, my parents were like, don't make too many plans. Yeah. Kids usually die at the age of 5. Crazy. Isn't that crazy?
That's so crazy.
I have so much more sympathy for my parents now, being a parent, imagining what that would have been like for them.
You're just watching your kid grow and you're like,
should any day now.
Yeah.
Just what the hell? Not to make light of it. I make light of these things because when you're living with stuff like that, humor is just a natural sort of coping. Yeah. It's not at all to make light or laugh at childhood illness or childhood, it's just being someone who lived with that. I had to sort of find the humor and make light of it or whatever. But then, every 5 years, it's I got to re-up on the lease of life because new therapies were introduced, and it was okay, now she's going to make it to high school. And then I was okay, now she's going to whatever. And
I couldn't imagine watching your kid grow up and be I don't even know if you're going to make it to grade 8 grad, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's
I wouldn't want to, I don't envy your parents.
No, it's that way. It's wild. And, that's the thing about growing up. I have so much more even understanding and a healing relationship, even with my mother and stuff, and just your changing of perspective as you grow, and just all those little things make a difference. Just having that running stress in you all the time makes a difference. But yeah, so it's been something that I've been so fortunate to experience the benefits of all the research and the treatments, and my life is still what it is today. I'm somewhere between 30 and 40, somewhere between. On screen 25 to 30. But I'm somewhere between there now.
I love it.
And I'm great. And even just a couple years ago, there's a new treatment that I've been on. I'm fantastic. The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, not losing breath is, if you met me 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it was a different story. And so I lived my whole life kind of feeling very embarrassed of my illness. It's an illness that can have a lot of, sort of like visible symptoms, coughing and all this stuff that like there's, times in my life where I felt scorned and just a lot of different things that just lived in me and that I've lived through. And so to my point of like CF not being a thing anymore, I'm still on my journey of just like owning that and repping that and be like, yeah, I'm a thriving warrior survivor living with cystic fibrosis, because again, that representation thing, right? When I was younger, I wrote myself off, which also led into me not being like, I'm going to be an actor. I didn't dream in decades when I was young. I dreamed in days. It's aided me in that I think that I have this very great ability to be really happy in the moment. I'm a very present person. Like I do cartwheels down the street, like I'm really happy. And so there's the good things that came out of me not like placing my joy in the future as a kid. But also the other things about that is now I'm here kind of going like, with a new sort of another new lease on life. They're kind of going, yeah, if all things go well, you could live well into retirement. And I'm going, well, what am I going to do with it all now? Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah.
And so in that representation, I mean, if there's any little, CFers out there that, maybe are going to the doctor's office and they're kind of going, well, your stats, your lung function's not looking so good, you're blah, 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 blah. Just, nothing's guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed to be a thing. The world can always be wide open. And maybe there is an importance in me owning that and saying, listen, I lived 30 years of my life, sort of to some degrees crippled under my illness. And that's not the case anymore. And like, look at me out here living my best life and being a thriving warrior. And we say warrior is the term that I took actually from the CF community, because they always it's like hashtag CF warrior. I think it's something that I kind of sometimes feel shy about using the word. It's like, warrior, is that me talking myself up too much? But I think the term is very appropriate, because you're talking about an illness here that is constantly affecting your ability to breathe.
Yeah.
And like, just think about like if anybody who's ever been ill or something, or you got a flu or you got pneumonia and you're like struggling to catch your breath. Now imagine that's your every single day all the time. And for some people who are living with CF, that is what it is. Again, it's a spectrum thing. Some people don't experience it to heavy degrees, but that's what it was, to the point where like I was blown away when this latest treatment that I'm on, when it started taking effect. I realized I didn't know what a full breath felt like. I'd lived 30 years of my life not knowing what a full breath felt like.
Wow.
And it was like I felt delirious. Like I ran like bad with measurements here, but whatever 20 minutes takes you to run, the average person. Like a week after I started my latest treatment, because I could.
That's amazing.
And I'd always tried, I was athletic through my childhood. I did gymnastics and all this stuff, but it was like, man, to think of how much grit and fight I put in just to be able to be at a like adequate level in those things. And it's just like, I remember being like, what have y'all been doing all your time with all this full breath in your... Oh, I see. Just enjoying yourself. So there's a part of me that does still have that in me that feels like, let's go. Like, you got full breath now. You ain't seen nothing yet. I'm taking this race, right?
That's amazing.
So so shout out to the CF Warriors.
Ayo.
I see you. I am you.
I love it. That's wicked.
We go thrive. I don't know.
we go thrive.
Yeah, you're thrive.
Get it.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. That's amazing.
Thanks.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty,
people don't.
Pretty amazing.
It's cool. I think it's cool.
It is, absolutely. Yeah. I want to get into your writing. Yeah. So you said when we were talking earlier that you got into writing last December. Yeah. Now take me through how that came to be.
Totally. I booked a project. The project was postponed. The project is still postponed. But all the good juju power out there that project will come to fruition. But I booked a project. The project, I was prepping to go on set for the project. The project got postponed. It felt like a big gut punch to me, because it was a project I was really excited for. It was a good size project. I felt like I was like 70% down the road of prep into it. And I had set aside my schedule. December was all planned out, the kids. I had people watching the kids. And so it was definitely a moment where I was like, as actors, we got to be resilient. We got to know that, some of this stuff can be so fleeting, and it really can, there's people who film whole projects and they never come out. Like, there's so many working pieces to the magic of the collaboration of film work that like if you can't really necessarily count everything as like a confirmed until
till it's on the screen,
until you're there and you're like, there's me on the TV screen. I understand that like I possibly could have had a better response and reaction, like of normalcy to it being postponed. Like, all right, that's fine. My actor mentality knows that these things happen. It's no problem. But I felt like really upset and sad about it. Like I crumbled into my core. Even when the agent called me to tell me, I was like, that's fine. I was like, don't cry on the phone with your agent. I was like, no, that's all good. No, whatever. Like if they don't want to like. It just, you know, with the strike last year and everything, like things were slow. And so it just came at a time where like I just went from a high of being like, yes, I booked this after not booking for a minute and then just be like, oh no. So I was sad about it for a moment, did my little cry, did my little dance, ate my little donut. And then I was like, you know what? A friend of mine, which is a mutual friend of ours, had already, we had already started talking about a project and kind of putting pen to paper a little bit, but with our schedules, we were just kind of like dabbling into it. And I phoned him up and I said, listen, I got 3 weeks on the schedule cleared right now. You in? You want to go do this right now and like get some real serious ink on the paper? And he was like, all right.
He's always down.
As you know, he's always down. And so we just, you know, those 3 weeks, I was like, I'm going to turn this into a blessing. I was like, I've been wanting to write. There's some writing in my past with, you know, poetry and stuff. I feel like there's stories I want to tell. I might have a slight inclination to it, but also I want to learn the skill and flex the muscle. So I just did that. And, you know, thank goodness, because right now I'm just going to say, you know, you can never call it until it's done. I'm just going to embrace that I can't call it thing and just still continue to treat it like this was just what I needed, because why not? And that thing where like, you know, some people go, I don't believe in that. I do. Everything is just what you believe or don't believe. You know what I mean? Like if I say this was the best thing that happened to me, it's going to be the best thing that happened to me because it's all just happening up here anyways. You know what I mean? We get so serious and like on our sides of like, it's real, it's not real.
Prove it. Prove that it was the best thing.
You know what I mean? Like it's proved there. I thought it's the best thing. It's done.
Check.
So that's how I pivoted that. I was like, I'm not going to sit and wallow. I'm going to do something. Self-actualization. We're going to get into creating projects. And so spent those 3 weeks before the year was done doing that. I'm so glad I did. In the new year, that led to me starting another writing relationship with another, you know, creator and friend of mine that's going really well. And we're like, you know, putting all the pieces together to be like, what do we want to do? And we're both so ambitious in that facet. And so now like I'm writing like 4 different screenplays right now.
That's wicked.
Yeah, 3 with partners and 1 solo. And they're all, you know, at least halfway or further. One's in its infancy, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. The point is that I think, you know, I've now opened up this whole new door of myself of writer. Right? And that thing of like, you know, and I say it to actors all the time, like even before you book something, you may claim title of actor because you are acting. So even though these projects have not been bought yet or pitched or whatever, I claim title of writer. I am a writer.
You have written.
I have written. Written I have.
Exactly.
My name at the top.
Therefore, writer.
Therefore, I writer. Yeah, that's it, right? So I'm writing. I'm really excited about those projects. I was saying to you before that I don't know what is the next step. So like, you know, by the time this airs, if there's people watching
if anybody's interested in the script.
So if you're interested in script, I have script probably ready by the time this airs. But
there you go.
Yeah, so now I'm just trying to like figure that next step out of like, you know, picking the brains of people in the industry. Like, what do you do? You wrote a project. Oh my God, what did you do next? How did you go about funding or getting a producer or whatever? So just trying to learn more of the things, but I'll figure it out. I mean, I figured out this much till this point. So doubt is minimal.
That is literally what I've been experiencing lately is like, oh my gosh, I don't know all this. And like, you learned everything you know now. So like, why not learn a little bit more, something different? Like,
and here's the funny secret to it. The people who are doing it at one time also didn't know.
Exactly.
What?
Right?
I didn't know.
They also
Except
just
the Nepo babies,
learned.
but anyways.
Yeah. Nepo babies aside.
Nepo babies
Everybody
aside.
else learned.
Everybody else just learned. Love you, Nepo babies. You learned something too.
Yeah.
Any Nepo baby friends I have, which I'm happy for you to call me too.
Learned how to keep your money and you're very good at it.
Yes. and I want to know how, so teach me.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Wicked. So are you interested in directing
Yes.
your own stuff? Yeah?
Yes, I am
Wicked.
interested in directing. I am a another title I claim, director. No. We have
Claim them all.
We have a running joke between my husband and I that like I just like sort of without being asked direct everything in our life, which is, I don't know if it's a mom thing, a woman thing, or just like an LA thing. But yeah, I definitely have picked up and noticed just my inclination towards being like, I'm going to frame this like this, and that's going to happen. And just kind of operating in my director essence already. And I'm like, okay, now let's put that to the test. Like, let's see if that skill does translate.
Cool.
Or if there's an interest. Like, I'm down to try everything, most things at least.
I love it.
Used to put that on my Tinder profile. Joking. Went
Try
for the joke.
anything once.
Went for the joke. Does not mean it's the truth.
Landed with me. I appreciate the joke.
Landed with you. But yeah, I'm down to try, and you never know. Like I love acting.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's been so great. I can't see myself falling out of love with acting, but also, like the polygamist I am, maybe I have more than one love.
Right? Yeah, always adding different. I feel like in this industry, you kind of almost have to. Yeah.
My husband's gonna love this interview.
Excuse me.
He's gonna be like, "Thanks, Dave. This is real great stuff."
I love it.
Perks of being in a long-term relationship. Like, you know me.
Right?
I'm just joking.
Did you expect anything less, really?
Yeah.
If you don't know me by now. I love it. But yeah, just constantly adding to the bucket of skills, I feel like is just of the industry.
Yeah.
How can you not? I think I'm just not one of those people who can just sit and wait. I'm not a patient person.
Not a patient person. But also there's something in the waiting that there's a ruminating of what you've already done that can come up when you're waiting that I think is also very, anti or works against, it's counterproductive to the energy we need to be operating in as creators. Because I mean, it's right there in the name, right? Like create. It's the doing, it's the moving. It's not stagnant at all. And so, even if, so having the I'm on a shelf, pick me, mentality is only going to hurt your spirit, your soul as an artist, which then hurts the work. So even if you don't have an interest in like being a multi-hat or whatever, a multi-hyphenate and doing all the things, and you're like, I just want to do this one thing and I know it and I love it, try the other things because it'll keep you moving. Also try the other things because this is a collaborative art and it can make you better at knowing how to speak the language of the person you're collaborating with, right? Like instead of like being there, like my director asked me to do this, like why? And like feeling a resentment towards it, be like, maybe if you try directing, you might have an insight into why they might, whatever. Which is why I also think as an actor, self-advocating for actors, that everybody in the film industry should take an acting class.
Yes.
So then they don't sit there poo-pooing on what we're doing. Don't poo-poo on what I'm doing. Go try it.
Go try it.
Yeah.
Have you seen Baby Reindeer?
No.
Yet? Okay, there's this one clip where he's like, so I went to an acting school where we're all like running around pretending to be animals and doing everything except for acting. I died. Yeah, it's just
because that's what it is.
You do the most ridiculous things in an acting class and I love it.
You do. But like, you get to know self and you get to know humans and you get to know people. And so I think it's also like, not to say treat acting like therapy, but there's this
oh no, I definitely treat it like therapy. It's
like, no, I do that.
So much therapy. I mean, I also have a therapist, but it's good therapy.
Yeah, and so I'm not saying you should, like, I'm not advocating to treat it like therapy because I don't know what kind of therapy everyone out there needs, and I don't want the situation to become dangerous.
That's true.
Right? Because there's a safety and whatever, and pacts and boundaries that you also have to have within the craft of acting. But there's a natural element of therapy that comes out of acting because of how much of the human psyche you're dealing with, you're investigating, right? So whether it's even, and for some people, that's why a lot of times, like your own trauma can come up when you're doing these things, but even just to be able to better understand people, even just like, I think like if everyone like went through like, acting acting training and did all these ridiculous exercises, we might be a more compassionate race. We might be a more empathetic race. We might see a decline in a lot of the worst things that we're doing in the world if we just engaged in this practice of understanding people and empathizing and just really kind of walk. What's that saying? If you walk a mile in their shoes, that's literally what you're doing when you're acting, right?
I feel like they should also do one shift in either retail or food service.
Yes, I've done both. This is why I'm a great person.
That's right. Thanks, minimum wage jobs. You really built character.
But definitely.
But that's true. Acting class is a good idea. Everybody should do an acting class.
Sponsored by
shout out Raw, and if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, it'll go. I like to finish up this podcast with a fast 5 questions. No pressure whatsoever.
I'm ready.
But there's pressure. Just kidding. All right.
All the pressure.
What is your favorite food?
Corn.
Corn?
I thought fast meant like fast response. I was like, corn.
Corn. Is it actually, or was that just the first thing that came to mind?
No, it's really high up there, like corn on the cob specifically.
Yes.
But I like to dress mine up. I do like butter and salt and hot sauce and ricotta cheese and anything.
Damn.
I like my corn is dressed.
I love going to the, I don't know whether they're fairs or festivals or whatever, and they have the corn. They just dip it in the vat of butter, and then they have the table of seasonings.
Glucose spike.
Need it. What is your favorite genre to watch?
Oh no, that one didn't come out as quick. You know what? The first thing that came into my mind was drama, but then I was like, that's so non-specific and broad. Favorite genre to watch? I do like to cry. I do. I like something that rips my heart out.
Did you watch This Is Us?
Yeah, I like that.
I loved crying to that.
I love that. So whatever that really dramatic, just like gut-wrenching subcategory of drama is, I love that. Like if you can just have me there sobbing, no. Oh no, why? I'm like somehow happy at the end of it. I'm like, man, that was horrifyingly great.
I really needed that.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's definitely my favorite genre. Genre to watch.
Amazing. Yeah. Do you have a favorite decade, time period that either you want to act or just that you love?
90s.
90s? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nice.
I was a youngin' in the 90s. I was a little young, pot-bellied, skinny, stick-legged kid running around in my bell-bottom jeans with my.
Now they're coming back.
Yeah. You remember those the cut-off shirts with it had like a triangle of color here, and then it had like a logo decal on the front. Right? And you'd wear that with like your
like flared up
pants and the belt that hung down way too long. You remember that style?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the 90s so much. That was my thing. And I know 90s is coming back, but like as a true living through the 90s
authentic 90s.
You don't know. You don't know what it was like to run outside until the street lights came on.
That's right. You're walking.
Not know if you'd ever find your way home again. But also for film. I think the 90s has a lot of great film in it. I mean, this could be part nostalgia. Why my
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't really know.
A lot of good nostalgic.
Was it critically objectively the best decade of film? Or is that just what you feel because it was the most impressionable decade of film because you watched it when you were 8?
That's true. So,
but either way, 90s is my answer.
Excellent. I love. What is a pet peeve of yours?
A pet peeve of mine. Ooh, you know what I don't like? I don't like because I take so much care and time to think about what my authentic answer is and try to like locate that like true truth in myself and then deliver that. I really don't like when people just sort of passively give like easy answers or excuses, just say stuff. I pin my husband to the wall for it all the time, where I'm like, oh, why did this happen? He's like, because, and I'm like, hold on a second, sir. Is that the truest truth within you? Let's meditate. And he's just like, I don't know, I just kind of said it. And then we go through a whole thing where I talk him through it and he goes, yeah, no, it was actually this. And I go, then why did you say that? He goes, I don't know, because it was easy. And I'm like, yeah, I hate that. take more time to do more mental work and be more introspective and find the real answer to what you want to say, and then just say it. Or like, you know, those like excuses people give because they think they're not like breaking your heart by just saying something. I'm like,
or like trying to pull an answer out of someone. Yeah, like I know there's something happening.
Just, you know, just say it. Just you know, like if we could work on just going with, and that's what actually meta here with you and the fast response to these questions. Just go with what the instinct is, and then don't try to block it.
Right.
You can still put it through a filter of like, you know, compassion or kindness. I'm not saying you have to walk around being blunt, insensitive asshole.
I was thinking you were being a fucking bitch.
Yeah. I was thinking, I don't really like the way your nose looks. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you can still, but it's a practice you can develop of like locating the truth and then deciding how you want to give it. But instead of doing the lazy thing of just being like, this is what I feel like saying. That's a pet peeve of mine.
That's fair.
Like lazy dishonesty. Like why? Why?
Lazy
One
dishonesty.
question. Why?
I like that. Yeah. Why?
I have a question. Why? Your Honor.
Your Honor. I love. No, that makes sense. I can relate. 100%. Last question is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self or someone starting off in the entertainment industry.
Younger baby self, I would say, you're so beautiful. I know that's silly, but I would just say, cute. I would look at her and speak to her how I speak to my daughters and my kids, and you know, and I just sometimes I don't even let them finish their sentences because I'm just going, you're just so beautiful. Like I'm just there taking in just their existence, and not beautiful like in terms of whatever, you know, although the gorgeous, but just their insides are just beaming out at me, and I'm just sitting there just being bathed in their like radiance of existence, and I'm like, I can't even focus on anything other than you're beautiful. And I'd like to say to baby LA, my initials, I'd like to say to baby LA, you're so beautiful, you're so worthy, you're so important.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I've heard that when you become a parent, you parent the way that you wanted to be parented. Absolutely. And you got to be actually cognizant of that, because sometimes if you're parenting in the way that you wanted to be parented, you got to look out for like if that thing is like a lacking in you, a scarcity, and now you're like overcompensating and creating a new issue with your child. Kind of trauma. So you got to be cognizant of like, yes, you're going to parent in a way that like you wanted to be parented, but you also have to like then combine that urge with like actual information and like results to see like how is this now going to impact my child. Right.
And so I'm fortunate in that like telling them I love them a gajillion times is only a positive impact. So there's no need for me to hold the brakes on giving into that indulgence.
100%. 100%. Well, that's beautiful. I love that answer.
Yes.
It's so cute. It's so precious.
And that's my advice to younger people doing it as well, is like pick someone in your life who you love so much, who you look at, I think as an innocent can be helpful. So if you're a parent, you have a kid, whatever, but I hope you have someone in your life who you can look at as like that innocent, that one to be protected, and then place that same love and opinion that you place on them
back on yourself. Yeah. That's
affirmations
amazing.
help. I used to rub myself in the shower like this and say, I love you. You're beautiful. Yeah.
That's so sweet. I saw an experiment online where they did, it was like, okay, in the mirror, tell yourself all the bad things that you say to yourself. Say them out loud. So they say them out loud, no problem. Yeah. And then they bring in their sibling, like usually a younger sibling. They're like, okay, now say that all to her. And they're like,
never,
right? You would never. And like, so why are you doing that to yourself? And so I was like, oh damn. So when you say like pick someone and all that love and adoration and everything that you feel for them, put on yourself, 100%.
Protection, grace, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. It's so easy to give it to people and other than yourself. So incredible, amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely chat with you.
Me too. This was really fun. Yay. This is great. I'm glad that we're like in real life.
Actually like seeing you in the flesh.
Yeah, like in real life buddies.
Yes.
Woo.
100%.
In real life buddies
I love it.
And not just like virtual.
Yeah, exactly.
Hard screen buddies.
Right? I know. It makes such a difference. That's why I like doing this podcast in person. Like I know I can do it over Skype or Zoom or whatever, but I love the connection.
Yeah.
Connection,
thanks for having me, and thanks for this platform.
My absolute pleasure.
We the people appreciate it.
Oh, yay, thank you. And thank you so much for watching. To check out more interviews just like this, head to my channel, Creative Full Time. We're on YouTube, Spotify, all the social medias. You can check us out. Like, subscribe, share with a friend if you related. And if you'd like to donate to the podcast to help keep it going, you can head to my website, AllisonMullings.com. Pay what you can and help us get better and better with every episode. Thanks so much, and see you next time.